Okay, in order to pick it up, we're today's daf on daf mem. We're up to daf mem hey amid aleph. We're up to daf mem hey amid aleph. But to understand it, we have to go over yesterday's daf. I'll just pick out the points that we have to know. We saw that according to Rabbi Akiva, he learned from the lashon of Mishras. He learned from the lashon of Mishras that he learned that heter is mitzaref le'issa. That a huge chiddush. If I have a half a zayis of grapes and I have a half a zayis of bread and I eat it together, the bread will be mashlim the half a zayis of anavim to a full kazayis and I'll be chayiv. That's what he learned from Mishras. The Chachamim, they learned from Mishras the concept of tam ke'ikr, which is that even if the isser is gone, I still have to deal with the tam of the isser. So if you have a piece of nevela in the pot, and you go ahead and you take out the piece of nevela, you still have to mevatel the tam of the nevela, tam ke'isser. That's what they learned from Mishras. Where did Rabbi Akiva know tam ke'ikr from? He learned from Gulei Midyan. He learned from the Kalim of Midyan that the fact that they had a kasha of the kalim, what was in the walls of the kalim? Tam, flavor, right? And nonetheless, you had to go ahead. Now, we had a problem that by tam ki'ika, we said it was a din in kol kula. By tam ki'ika, we said it's a din in kol kula. However, by het mitzdarf l'issa, we said it was limited to Nazir. Fred the Gemara, why is it limited to Nazir? Why don't we extend it to kol kula? And for the Gemara, because of chatos. We said a chatos that touches a shlamim, the shlamim becomes a chatos. With mitzdarif the heta of the shlamim with the chatos to go ahead and create heta mitzdarif lissa. Shnei kesub ma'bayin ke'echad. What does it teach us? Therefore, I'm limited to nazir and kachim. That was the din of what of Rabbi Akiva. Shnei kesub ma'bayin ke'echad. And we're up to on Mem Hey Amid Aleph. We're up to the response of the Rabbanan. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down. Now the Rabbanan, right, who learn Mishras is Tam Ke'ika, why don't we say the same thing, that it's Shnei Kesuvim Habayim Ke'echad? In other words, let's limit Tam Ke'ika to Nazir and Chatas. Let's limit it to Nazir and Chatas and not extend it to Kol Torah Kula. For Rabbanan Nami, it's not Shnei Kesuvim Habam Ke'echad. As we'll see in the Gemara, you need both because you couldn't learn one without the other. Shnei Kesuvim Habam Ke'echad means one is totally extra. One is totally extra. If the Torah wanted to teach me a universal din, say one, and from a Memet Sinu, we'll learn the Kol Torah Kula. Why did Torah say two? To limit it to these two places and none other. That's provided I can learn out from the first one, the second one. But if I can't learn out the second one from the first one, then they're both necessary. No longer is it Shnei Kesuvim Habam Ke'echad, because each one is necessary. And the Gemara will say exactly what exactly that Srichasa is. Rabbi Akiva might Sricha. What Srichasa do you have? That you, Rabbi Akiva, you hold the Shnei Kesuvim. Now, Bishlemi, Kasarachmana Bechatos, if the Torah would have written the din of a chatas touching something and the carbon it touches gets the chumrah of the chatas, loy gomar nazamina, I wouldn't know nazir is had to mitzdarf l'isser. Why? The chulim mikachim loy gamrinon, because you can't learn out chulim from kachim. Ela lichtei rachmana ben nazir, write it by nazir that het is mitzdarf l'isser. And then learn out chatas from Nazir. Just like Nazir hetes mitzdaref le'issa, so too chatas hetes mitzdaref le'issa. The Hakol Yisur Shevet Torah kagam Nazir. Elama, what's the reason you wrote chatas? To limit it to those two places. For Rabbanan, now what's the tzricha? So the Rabbanan say you could guys, like the Rabbanan. You can't learn chatas from Nazir. That's obvious because you can't learn kachim from chulin, but you can't even learn out Nazir from chatos. So therefore it's a tzrichasa. For Rabbanon, Amri L'cha mitzrach tzricha. You need both. And therefore it's not shnei kesuvim abayim ke'echad. Chatos lehetem mitztaref le'isser. I need chatos to teach me the din that the shlomim to have the din of a chatos, right? Slow system. Are you hearing me okay? I'm getting some kind of sign over here. I don't know what. Okay, great. So in other words, says the Chachamim, I need chatas to tell me hetem mitztaref le'isser, and I need mishras to teach me tam ke'ika. Good. I need mishras to teach me tam ke'ika. Umikana tadon l'kol Torah kula. Rabbi Akiva travayu lehetem mitztaref le'isser. He learns out tam ke'ika from geulei midyon. So both, therefore, since he has a source for what? For geulei midyon, he has what? A source for tam ke'ika. And the Chacham don't have that source because there, he said maybe it's nice in tam l'fkam. So therefore, okay, that's it. That's the sugi, guys. A side question. Everything you learn out about from by Nazir, it says any extract migefen from the grape, hayayin of wine, mechatsan and pits, uvad zog to peels, limed al is Nazir shnem star from zemzeh. Guys, if you eat a chatzi zayis of pits and a chatzi zayis of skin, you'll be chayiv. You know, again, we're mitzdarif to two. Right? The Gemara question. Hashtil Rabbi Akiva. Issa v'heta mitzdarfin. Now, like Rabbi Akiva, Issa v'heta is mitzdarif. You're going to combine bread and grapes. The bread is total heta. The grapes are asa to a nazir. And you'll combine the two. You need to tell me things that are asa to the nazir that they combine. You need to tell me that Katsanim will combine with the zogim, with the pits, will start with the shells. Of course they will. Issa mi boy. So side question. Like Rabbi Akiva, if you hold by nazir, heter mitzaref le'issa, madach heter and issa mitzaref. Certainly an issa and issa is mitzaref. So what do you need to limud mikol sheyasam migefen v'yayim if Katsanim v'yadzog? What do you need that limit for? And for the Gemara, no, I do need it. Mi boy. Amalei issa v'heter b'vasachas. You hear this? The din of hetem and starf is only if it's at the same time. The only time we'll say hetem and starf is I eat the kizayis of bread with the half of zayis of bread with the half of zayis of mishras soaked in. The yain is soaked in. The grapes are soaked in. Then the vasachas I'll say it's mitzdaref. I need the pasuk to tell me that issa, that the zog and chetzanim would combine, even if you eat them at two separate times, I guess, provided it's nichtei achilas pras. So nimtza, again, this is the end of a very, very involved sugya. We saw it yesterday. Just a quick summary. The difference between tam kik and hetem mitzdaref l'issa is by hetem mitzdaref l'issa, you have the issa's be'en. It's there. You don't have the shear, but it's there. By tam ke'ika, the issa is not there. All you have is the tam. The chumrah of hetem mitzdaref issa is the fact that you have a hetem mitzdaref. The chumrah of tam ke'ika is despite the fact you don't have the mamashas of the ikka. All you have is the tam. You still have to mevatel it. And those are the two. And now, where do you learn it out from? So tam ke'ika, like the Rabbanon, you learn out from mishras. According to Rabbi Akiva, you learn tam ke'ika from geulei midyon, and hetem mitzdaref issa. According to Rabbi Akiva, you learn out from mishras. You learn from mishras, and the Chachamim seem to say you need to learn from chatas. Okay, that's what we saw yesterday. That's what we have. Are we good? That's a very quick summary. I'd love to tell you the next piece of Gemara is easier, but I would be lying. Okay. Let's picture you have a kneading trough. How do you knead? Avrami Weiner will tell you. First you put in water, and then you put in flour. So let's say they didn't have like wood glue like we have. If you have a kneading trough, and they didn't have the ability to just buy kalim. So let's say they took a piece of dough, and they stuck the dough in the crack to be the filler that the water should not come out. So now, let's say it's dough, comes Pesach time. Is it considered bottle to the kli, and I'm not over on Bal Yirah Bal Yamatzeh? Or no, do we say you have to remove it? Another halacha of nafkamina would be le'inyan tumah. If you view the dough as bottle to the kli, then if I take a sheretz and I touch the dough, the whole kli will be tameh, because the sheretz is an avatuma, kamimitama kli. But if I hold the dough is not bottle to the kli and it has a shem oichel, so if I take a sheretz and touch the dough becomes a rishon. A rishon would not be able to mitama the rest of the kli. So there's a nafkamina, two nafkaminas. If it's bottle the kli, then I would be mitama the kli. It's a chumrah. It'll be a kula regarding Bal Yirah Bal Yamatzeh that I would not be over, because I'll say the piece of dough is considered part of the kli. Conversely, if it's not bottle, then it's a kula by tuma, but it's a chumrah by chametz. You're gonna have to get rid of it. Okay. So now says the Mishnah, batzek shebis daki areva. You have dough that's in the crack of a kneading trough, of a bowl that you use for kneading. Im yesh kezayis b'makam echad. If you have a kezayis in one spot, chayiv levayer, you're required to get rid of it. Mashma, at this point in time, fellas, any spot in the kli, you'd be required to get rid of it. We'll see that's going to change. But right now, no matter where it is in the kli, you'd have to get rid of it because it's a full zayis, and therefore, because of its chashivas of being a zayis, it's not bottled to the kli. And therefore, you have to get rid of it. That's to be over on Bal Yirah Bal Yamatzeh. The imlav. But if it's not a kezayis, guys, if it's not a kezayis, then bottle b'miuta, it'll be bottled to the kli, machmas the fact that it's small in size. Okay. So therefore, what does it mean? If it's a kezayis, you'll be over Bal Yirah Bal Yamatzeh. If it's not a kezayis, you won't. And therefore, you can leave it there. V'chein le'inyan hatuma. So too the inyan tumah. In makbid alav, if you makbid that to remove it, chaytzeitz, it will be what? A chatzitza to the kli. It'll be considered like if you toivel the kli, it's not a good tefillah. Then moitza b'kiyuma, but if you want to keep it there, harihu kareva, then it's considered what? It's considered part of the kneading trough. Chaytzitz can mean chaytzitz between the tumah and not, right? If you makbid alav, then it's chaytzitz. And therefore, if a sheretz would touch it, it won't be metama the kli because I don't want it there. On the other hand, if I want it there, then it's not a chatzitza. It's part of their reva.
If there's a lot of b'miyutos, you combine it, or you add them all up to make a kazayas.
We'll see that luck if they're touching each other. Okay.
If it's bottled to the keli, it's still chametz, right?
But you leave it there. You're not even by your by your matzah. It's bottled to the kli. It's considered part of the kli area.
You can't eat it.
You're not even by your matzah.
You're matzah, but it still can't eat it.
Meaning it's considered part of the kli. You don't have to get rid of it. Of course you can't eat it. It's considered part of the kli. In other words, it loses its shem chametz. It's considered part of the kli. It's bottled to the kli. It's bottled to the kli. In other words, there's no problem with leaving it there. Ain't tzarich levara means you don't have to remove it.
But I can't use the keli.
It's the kli. It's considered part of the kli. That's
on
it.
Pesach, it's going to come out.
On Pesach, it's not chametz. You just leave it there.
But I can't use the keli on Pesach.
Why would you use a kneading trough on Pesach?
You can make matzah on Pesach.
Oh, you want to know? Could you use this kli on Pesach because there's chametz? It's probably. I would think this is not a kneading trough. This is not Pesach. For sure, this is chametz. The Gemara is going to discuss the dough rising. So if the dough is rising, it's not what? It's not matzah stuff. It's you wouldn't be able to use it. This is speaking about what? This is speaking about a kli that used to make challah the whole year.
So it's inedible, this stuff. Whatever's stuck inside.
Again, I didn't say it's inedible. I said it's bottled to the kli.
So if I could put a hot soup in on Pesach?
Again, you can't use the kli. You're not even by your matzah, meaning the kli, you're not selling the kli, but you're not over by your matzah. So you have in your rishus a kli that has chametz in it, but it doesn't have a shem chametz that you're over by your matzah. You won't be able to use the kli.
I cannot use a keli.
The kli is a kneading trough.
Okay.
It's used to make challah.
But you can't use it. Whatever it is, you can't use it for food.
So now, the Gemara gets quite difficult. It's two diyukim. I'm going to try to give it to you outside first. If that doesn't work, we'll see it inside and then go back to the outside. Okay? So let's bring it up here. Okay. The din. Okay, here's the din. The din is the first din of the Mishnah, guys, is the kezayis yechayiv to remove. A kezayis yechayiv to remove, right? We didn't make a distinction of no matter where it was, you weren't required to remove it, right? We didn't make a distinction. No matter where this was, you were not required to remove it, right? Now, says Reb Yehuda in the name of Shmuel, Lo shanu, we did not say you're required to remove it, only if it's on the wall of the kli. Only if it's on the wall of a kli. Fellas, what's the purpose of the kli? It's to contain something. When you put water in the kli, you don't want it leaking out of the bottom. So as long as if this kezayis was on the bottom, right, then you would not have to remove it. The only time that you have to remove it is when you don't need it to go ahead and contain the water. When it's on the wall. Since it's on the wall, if there's a little crack, so what? The dough is going to rise, big spritz. So, Slay Shanu, that this din, the kezayis yechayiv levaer, is only on the wall. But the outcome, if it's kezayis on the bottom, it'll be bottled. Despite the fact that it's a kezayis, it'll be bottled to the kli. You know why? Because I need it to contain the water in the kli.
What if there's a crack on the wall of the kli? Why would that be any different than the bottom?
Because water's not going to come that high, Ali. Water's not going to come that high. Only the dough, and the dough is not going to. It's loy mafriya. It doesn't bother it so much.
Okay.
Memela, guys, watch. If the halacha that you have to remove is only kezayis, then pachas mikezayis on the wall would be batal. In other words, the only time you have to go ahead and remove it is if you have you have a double negative, kezayis and wall. But if you have one positive, so one positive would be the bottom of the kli, or another positive less than a zayis, then it'll be batal. It'll be batal. That's the first shita. Again, the din is the Mishnah says kezayis chayv levayer. Says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Shmuel. This din of kezayis that you chayv levayer is only as you have two negatives. What are the two negatives? One, kezayis, the amount, that's a negative amount. And two, you don't need it so much because it's on the wall. But if you have any positive, one positive, then it's batal. In this case, the kezayis, what's the positive, guys, in this over here? The fact that it's what? On the bottom. Therefore, even though I have a negative kezayis, I got one positive. It's on the bottom. Therefore, it's batal. Over here, pachas mikezayis plus wall. I got a negative, it's the wall, but I got a positive, it's less than a zayis, right? And therefore, it will go ahead and be batal.
Why is the bottom better than the wall again?
How is that, guys?
Why is the bottom better than the wall?
The bottom is because it has to hold the water. You can't, a kli is not a kli if it leaks out of the bottom. The sides, the water is not going to reach the sides, shalom. The sides is going to be, what happens is when it raises up. Yes, Tak. Yeah, he raised the hand. Guys, you good? You hit a chilik, okay? As long as you have one positive, you know, it's batal. As long as you have one positive, it's batal. The positive could be the location, or the positive could be the size of the dough. That's the first limud. Let's see the second now. Was that clear? That was clear? Okay, so now let's see the second one. The second one says it's not going on the Reisha, Rabbi Yehuda name of Shmuel, it's going on the Seifa. The Seifa said less than a zayis is batal. Mashma, as long as it's not a kazayas, you could leave it there. Not so fast. Not so fast. The only time you said you could leave it there is if you have the bottom, a makom that's made to mechazek. Then, since I need it on the bottom, less than a zayas, meaning I have two positives. Two positives. One, it's less than a zayas. Two, location warrants bittul. I need it on the bottom. Then it's bottle. What happens if I have one negative? So, pachas mikazayas in the wall. My one negative is the wall, not bottle. Kazayas in the bottom, might have a negative, a kazayas. Ain't a bottle. So this is more chomer than the first shita. In fact, this says kazayas in the bottom is bottle. This says kazayas in the bottom is not bottle. This says pachas mikazayas and wall is bottle. This says pachas mikazayas and wall is ain't a bottle. So memela, you have a stira between the reisha and the seifa, based upon the diak. If the diak's from the reisha, as long as I have one positive, it's bottle. In the seifa, in order to be bottle, I need two positives. But if I have one negative, it's not bottle. Let's see it inside. We'll see the stira and then we'll see the teretz. Rav Yehuda Shmuel, Lo Shonu, we did not learn that a kazayas you have to remove ela b'makam she'ein asuy l'chazek. If it's on the wall, it's a place that what is not machazek the kli. Al b'makam she'asuy l'chazek, but in a place where you need to machazek the kli, such as the bottom, ein a chayiv levaer. You're not chayiv to remove it because I need it on the bottom. It's a full kazayas. I don't care. If I got one positive, we're good. I hate using the word positive in this day and age because usually it has a different connotation. But I'm saying if you have one positive, you're good. One positive, you're good. Mechlal, the pachas mikazayas, I feel b'makam she'ein asun l'chazek. Oh, I got a positive. What's my positive? Less than a zayas. What's the negative? It's on the wall. Who cares? I don't care. Ein l'chayv levar. That's the first lashon. Now there are those who learn this diak not on the ratio of kazayas, but on the seifa of less than a zayas. The imlav, and meaning if it's less than a zayas, batal b'miyutay. Rav Yehuda Shmuel lo yishanu that less than a zayas is batal b'miyutay. Ella, you have two negatives, two positives. One, it's pachas mikazayas, right? And elbim makam asil chazek. And what? And I need another positive, which is what? On the bottom. Aval b'makam she'ein asil chazek. If it's on the wall, chayiv levar, even less than a zayis on the wall, it's not batal, I'd have to get rid of it. And mechlal, if that's the case, if one negative on the wall, then one negative in size, kazayis, afilu b'makam asil chazek, even on the bottom, chayiv levayer. I'd be mechayiv to go ahead and get rid of it. Guys, good? It's very clear, right? The diukum is very good. Now, we're going to bring a brisa that's a raya to both. We're going to be a brisa that's a raya to the lishna kama and one that's the lishna basra. Now, the lishna kama is more kuladik, right? So let's just get clearly. The lishna kama clearly is more kuladik, right? We're saying it's bottle as long as you have one positive. Over here, your positive was the bottom. Over here, your positive was pachas mikazayas. In the second case, you needed two positives in order to mevatla, right? So the first one is more kuladik than the second one. Says the Gemara, Tanya kalishna kama, Tanya kalishna basra. Tanya kalishna kama, that one positive will do the job. Batzek shebestike areva b'makam asil chazek. If it's in the bottom of the kli, ain't a chaytzeitz, then it won't be chaytzis because it's tumah, because it's part of the kli. But ain't over, and you won't be over in bal yirah, bal yimatzah, because it's bottled to the kli. However, ubamakim shein asil chazek. What about the wall, which is a negative? Chaytzeitz, and it would be a chatzitza ba'over when the medam amurim b'kazayis. It's only if it's a full zayis, because now you have two negatives. You got the wall and a zayis. Avol epakas mikazayis. If I have one positive, afilu b'makom shein asil chazek, even if it's in the place of a negative, the wall ain't a chaytzitz. It will not be a chatzitza. meaning it'll be considered batal to the kli ve'ena over. So that's a riot clearly to the first lashon that what, as long as I have one positive, I'm good. Tanya Kalishna Basra, we have a riot to the Lishna Basra. Botzek Shebestike Areva, you got a piece of dough that's what? That's cracked in the trough. If it's in a place that goes ahead what? And strengthens it, meaning the bottom, ain't a chaytzeitz, then it's part of the cleave, ain't over, and you won't be over. But that's b'makom, that's only because it's in the bottom, and guys, and it's less than I will see in a second. B'makom she'enos l'chazek, if it's the wall, then chaytzeitz, it will not be considered part of the kli, and therefore it would be chatzitza for tumah. V'oiver, b'medav amamurim, pachas mikazayis, because now I have two negatives. I have a pach but kazayis. I have two positives. I have a kazayis. If I have a negative, I feel b'makom l'chazek, even though I have a positive, meaning on the bottom, chaytzeitz, v'oiver. Now, kosher adodi. So now, guys, we have two kashas. We have a kasha from Kazayas in the bottom. The first one says it's batal. The second one says, right over here, the second one, Kazayas bottom is not batal. Pachas Mikazayas over here plus the wall was batal. Pachas Mikazayas over here was ain't batal. So we have a kasha Kazayas. We have a kasha Pachas Mikazayas. We have a kasha. Both the yukim now are shver. An attempted teretz. Amar Rav Huna, some may kill some mikame chemerta. Says Rav Huna, no problem. Get rid of the first brisa. Some may get rid of kilta, the kula of the first brisa. Mikame chemerta, from what? From the in front of the chumra of the second brisa. So this, in other words, a brisa, guys, you don't know exactly who. It was. Rebbe was Masad and Mishnayos. It got passed down. Along the way, we have brises that mishabeshta, brises that got corrupt. So if I have a steer in brisa, which one is the more corrupt one? Says Rav Huna, the first one, the cool, is more corrupt, and the second one makes more sense. That's what he says. Rabbi Yosef Amar, Rabbi Yosef disagrees with Rav Huna. He says, Tanoi shekalta ma'alma. Did you go ahead and take the Tanoim out of the world? Guys, usually you learn plenty of Gemara. When you have a steer in Bryces, what do you say? Ha money. Who is the Tana? That's the Rabbanan. That's Rabbi Akiva. That's Rabbi Tarfon. That's Rabbi Yosef Glili. We always find Tanoim. So Mimela, you mean to tell me you couldn't find the Tana that held like the Kamaisa, that you got rid of it? Well, you just totally deleted the first Brisa because you couldn't find the Tana. Rabbi Yosef is going to suggest I got a Tana. Rabbi Yosef is going to suggest, guys, the following. He's going to give this teretz. He's going to say, this Brisa that says Kezayis goes according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, and this one goes according to the Tanakama. So in other words, I'm going to introduce the easy way out. Don't get rid of this first Brisa. Go ahead. We'll say it's according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, and the second Brisa is the Tanakama, and everyone will go to sleep happy. Says the Gemara, Tanoyi, the Tanya. Hapasha Ivsha, what you have, is manazeh, what you call sourdough. They called it moldy bread. We called it sourdough. Chayev levayer. You have to chayev to get rid of it. Why? Because you can go ahead and grind it, ulechameya, and you can use it as a leavening agent for other dough. You can use it to leaven other dough. Therefore, there's a din of beer. You have to get rid of it. Even though you can't eat it, there's a din you have to get rid of it. Kama ulechameya, but kama isas acheros, many other doughs. Reb Shimon ben Elazar Omer, b'medama mamurim, when do you have to get rid of it? It's b'mikuyemes la'achila, when you kept the sourdough around to eventually eat it. Avol koifis sa'ar, a clump of yeast, sheyachta liyeshiva, that you were miyached to sit on. It was a clump, it was I think they used to have yeast in sticks, and before they had the packets, right? It was a clump. Am I right? The yeast came in a clump, right? So you had clumps. So you had a geroisa clump, right? You had a big thing you could sit on. So if you miyached it for sitting, then betel, it's batel, and you don't have to get rid of it on Pesach. It's not an achila. It's not chometz.
It's not asabana.
What?
It's not asabana.
Mutter behana. It's not chometz. Mutter behana. Mit the Amr of Shimon ben Elazar batla michlal the Tanakama sabalai batla. So now, when the Reb Shimon says it's batal, the Tanakama must hold it's not batal. So here would be a very, very easy way to go ahead. Here would be a very good, easy way to go ahead and explain our problem. You have a kasha, the kazayas plus a bottom is batal. A kazayas plus a bottom is not batal. This one is going according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, teretz number one. According to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, teretz number one, you know why it's batal? We see Reb Shimon ben Elazar hold, you can be mavatal. So just like you can be mavatal the yeshiva for sitting on, you can be mavatal to be a plug in a kli. The Tanakama said no. Tanakama said even if you mavatal it, it's not batal. So Mamela, just like you can be mavatal to use as a seat, you can't be mavatal what? To go ahead and use as a plug. And Mamela, Kazayas puts the bottom is ain't a batal. Guys, good? Shmak, right? Here, teretz number one. Here, teretz number one. This is the Tanakama who says what? It's not batal. This is Reb Shimon ben Elazar's batal. What's the problem? You didn't answer this. You got a second stira. Here it says pachas megazayis, the wall is batal. Here it says pachas megazayis, the wall is ain't a batal. So taratzta, you answered up kazayis. What didn't you answer up? You didn't answer up. You didn't answer up pachas megazayis. Okay. So the Gemara is going to it's crazy. It's a one-line teretz in the Gemara, and it's the rest of the daf and Rashi. So let's do it outside. Let's try to do this outside, and then we'll see if it makes little sense. Let's recognize three areas on the kli. Let's recognize in the kli a few different areas. Okay, guys, you have the bottom of the kli, you have the walls of the kli, and you have the top of the kli. So now, the bottom of the kli is crucial. The bottom of the kli is the area that plugs it. Good? Since it's crucial, even if you have a kazayas, it's batal. It says over here it's not batal. Hang in there, okay? Hang in there. In svara, guys, listen. It's a good svara. I need to plug the bottom of the kli. If the water leaks out, in Yiddish we say, it doesn't begin. I need to plug it. Even if I have a choshev, a kazayas of dough that's chametz, I can plug the bottom of the kli. Everyone agrees with that. Even the second brisa agrees with that, guys. Good? Conversely, a third area, the top of the kli. The top of the kli. The dough rises. Seldom doesn't make it to the top. Seldom doesn't make it to the top. So if I have a crack there, even if I have pachas mikazayas, which is a minimal amount, everyone would hold that that it's not batal and you got to get rid of it. Doesn't serve a purpose. What about the sides? What about area number two? The area of lisha, where you're going to go ahead and knead. So then it makes a difference. If it's a kazayas, it's a choshev amount. Since the crack is so crucial, and a kazayas is a choshev amount, then you'd have to get rid of it. Masha enkein, if it's less than a kazayas, it's not, since it serves a purpose a little bit to cover up the crack, because the dough is going to rise, then if it's less than a zayas, I don't have to mevatel it. So in fact, there is no machloikis. This brisa and this brisa are going according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, and they're discussing different locales. Watch. Let me get this. The first brisa, it's not discussing area number 3. It's only discussing area number 1 and area number 2. Guys, very focus on this chart. The Gemara will go perfect. He's not discussing the top. Area number 3, right over here, he's not discussing the top ki who's there. Everyone's moida, the top is ain't a bottle. You got to get rid of it. Doesn't serve a purpose. He's discussing area number 1 and area number 2. Area number 1, guys, a kizayis and the bottom is bottle. That's crucial. That's got to hold the water in. Pachas mikizayis and the wall is bottle. Why? Because it's speaking b'makam lisha. Ha b'makam lisha. This is the place of dough where dough is going to rise. And since it's less than a kizayis, it's negligible, and therefore it can stay and it's bottle to the kli. That's the first brisa. The second brisa is also Reb Shimon ben Elazar. There's no machlokes. The second brisa teretz is what? Is Reb Shimon ben Elazar. He's not discussing area number 1. Area number 1, everyone holds his bottle. It's crucial for the water. So this kizayis, this diak that you made over here, kizayis and bottom is in a bottle, is not true. Because he's not discussing area number 1. When he said over here, pachas mikizayis, he's discussing area number 2, guys. Change this around. It's not the bottom. It's the wall. It's the side. It's the side. Change that around. Because the bottom over here, kizayis and bottom is taka bottle. He's not discussing area number 1. He's not discussing the place that you keep water. He's discussing area number 2 and area number 3. Area number 3, afilu pachas mikizayis is ein a bottle. Why? Because area number 3 at the top, no one cares about it. You got to get rid of it. It doesn't serve a purpose. When he said the kizayis in the bottom, he didn't mean the kizayis in the bottom. He meant the kizayis on the wall. The kizayis on the wall, since it's what? Shaloi b'makam lisha, then you have to get rid of it. But pachas mikizayis, you're able to go ahead and keep it there. So according to this, it's according to Shimon ben Elazar in both venues. And that's, if that made any sense to you. So there's no machlokes. There's 3 areas. The first brisa is discussing area number 1 and number 2. The second brisa is discussing area number 2 and number 3. So Mamela, area number 1, pachas mikizayis and bottom, bottle. Area number 3, pachas. Area number 1, kizayis and bottom, bottle. Area number 3, afilu pachas mikizayis, not bottle. Area number 2, kizayis, not bottle. Why? Because it's not so necessary. Pachas mikizayis, yes, bottle. No stira. Everything is according to Shimon ben Elazar. I just spoke for 10 minutes for 1 line of Gemara. Hopefully you understand it. Hopefully you understand it. Let's see it inside. Okay. Says the Gemara, Teratzta kibikazayas. Where did I start? No. Where am I up to? Yeah, I'm up here. Okay. Now, Amalei Abaya. Teratzta bikazayas. According to the first teretz, you said it's machlokes tanoim, but you only answered up kizayas. Pachas mikazayas mi teratzta. The stira in pachas mikazayas, did you answer up? You didn't. Elahava Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Both brises are Reb Shimon ben Elazar. V'loi kasha. The first brisa is discussing area number 1 and area number 2. Ha b'makam lisha, ha shaloi b'makam lisha. That's it. The first brisa is discussing area number 1 and area number 2. Area number 1, it's so crucial. Afilu kizayis is bottle. And he's not discussing area 3. Area number 2, it depends. If it's kizayis, it's not bottle. If it's a pachas zayis, it is bottle. Hashaloi b'makam lisha. The second brisa is discussing area number 2 and area number 3. Area number 1, everyone agrees. Afilu kizayis is bottle. Area number 3, everyone pachas mikazayis is not bottle. Area number 2, pachas mikazayis not bottle, kazayis bottle. That's it. Amar Ravashi, loy teimesh loy b'makam lisha agba da'agna. Don't think area number 3 is on the outside. Ela sifsa da'agna. It's on the inside. It's the lip on the inside. It says no pshita. Of course, why would we be discussing the outside? So ma'ad teima zimnin da'atif u'matei lahasam. Sometimes you ever see the yeast that overflies and goes. Aryeh, this is how I know it's not speaking about matzah, ladies. Aryeh, you hear?
It's love. It's
rising up. The lisha, it's speaking about fermenting dough. That's why it's not a Pesach kli. You got it?
Yeah.
You see from here, that's why my diak is like you can't be speaking about Pesach dough, right? It went ferment this high. Says the Gemara. Zimin the ataf umatel hasam. Sometimes it'll overflow to go over the sides. Kamash malan. That only the inside, not the outside. Guys, good? Okay. Amrav Nachman, Amarav, Halach Reb Shimon Elazar, that it's miyachtel. If you go ahead and miyachel a clump of yeast for yeshiva, it's bottle. Ini is it really so that you say that? V'amrav Yitzchak Barashi, Amrav, imtach peneha betit. If you take the yeast and you smear cement on it, lime on it, then butler. Mashma, you have to do an action to it to go ahead and battle it. Ach in loitach loy. So it's mashma that bittel alone, miyachid for yeshiva alone, is not enough to mevatel it. You have to do another action, such as smearing it with lime. It says, and for the Gemara, manda masni holy masni. It's machlekes and Rav. The one who learns one doesn't learn the other. The one who said that Allah is like Rabbi Shimon Elazar did not learn the din of tach of smearing it with lime. Amar Nachman Amar Rav. Ain't Allah Rabbi Shimon Elazar. Allah is not like Rabbi Shimon Elazar. The Amar Yitzchak Barashi Amar Rav. Imtach panel betit butler. That's the opposite, the other extreme. You have to do an action. Amar Nachman Amar Shmuel. Now, this is Heshi's question about, let's say you have, he said miutois. Really, it's if you have kizesim in different parts on the mitzvah, Heshi. That's what you meant. Less than a zayis in different parts of the kli, do they combine or not? That's what you meant, right? So now, shnei chatzos you have two hefes in the kli. V'chut shel batzek beneihem, and there is a thin line of batzek between them. Now you have to say this is speaking not on the bottom of the kli; it's speaking on the wall of the kli, according to the second shot, according to Shimon Elazar. So it's speaking on the wall of the kli, and we want to know, is it mitzdarif in the wall of the kli to the share of a zayis that we said a zayis on the wall you have to get rid of, or no? Do we say it's not mitzdarif, it remains pachas mikazayis, and therefore you don't have to get rid of it? That's the shaila. So Royan, we say the lesson of view it as kol she'ili yinotel hachut v'nitla imar chayiv. Anyone, if you would take the chut v'nitol and imay, and the zaysim would be schlepped with them, then chayiv levayer, because they're considered one piece. The imlav, but if they would break apart, ain't a chayiv levayer. Then they remain pachas mikazaysim, two separate zaysim. Amaula le'amaron ela ba'areva. We only said this in a trough. Avul bibayis. If I have a mulchametz over here, let's say it's lying in the cracks of the floor of the house, and it's held together by a chut, then chayiv levar even would break apart. My timer, the zimnin the konish lahu v'nafli gabi adode. Maybe when you sweep it, maybe they'll combine together, and you'll have a full zayis. Amaula boy b'marava the following shaila. Bias va'aliyah. You have a half a zayis in an attic, and half a zayis in the ground floor. Mahu, what's the din? Are we chayish that it's going to fall down to the bottom? And even if it falls down to the bottom, who's to say it's going to be in the same area and come together? Imtim saloimar, guys, Rashi learns. And if you're going to say it's not mitzdarif, because again, it's not so, the traffic over there, people, the top to bottom, is not so strong, but bayis v'achsadra, and achsadra you have open windows, you have open area, there's a tremendous amount of traffic. Mahu, what's the din? Would that combine? Imtim, that combines. What about shnei beit batim zelef mizu, where you don't have so much traffic like you have by an achsadra? What the answers on all those shilas, take it. Now we discussed moldy bread. The Gemara will include a halacha of moldy bread. Asha ifsha, pasta became moldy, and this is Aryeh's favorite sugya. V'nifsal me'lechel la'adam, a person can't eat it. V'hakelev yachal la'oichla, but a kelev dog could eat it. Now, question: does it lose its shem oichel or not? If it loses shem oichel, you don't have to mavar it. Mitamatumas oichlin, it would be mitamatumas oichlin, even though a human being can't eat it. It would be mitamatumas oichlin. B'kabetza, the share of a betza, that is the share of being makabel. V'nisbistafa in atmeya b'pesach. However, it has does have a kula. Rabbi Yossi, guys, in the sugya of Chanina Sagana Kohanim, Rabbi Yossi said you can't burn truma tameya in truma tahira. You can be metama biyadayim. So even though this is tahar, the balt it's not edible by a human being. You could burn it with truma tameya biyadayim. Even Rabbi Yossi with Maida, you could burn them together, and you don't have to worry about being metama the moldy bread. Mishum Reb Nassan Amru Eina metama. Reb Nassan says that it doesn't have a shem oichel. Reb Nassan says even if a dog can eat it, it's still not human food. Right? He's very makel. We paskin that if it's royal achilas kelev, it has a shem oichel. Reb Nassan says no. If it's not royal achilas kelev, as long as it's not royal for achilas adam, it loses its shem oichel, and therefore will not be metama. Now, Keman Ozla Ditnan, the following Mishnah, Klal Omru B'Tairis. Anything that is miyachid for a chil of a person, tamei, it's capable of accepting tuma until it becomes possible achilas kelev. Even though it's early at an earlier time, it's possible for Adam, he won't eat it. It still has a shem oichel until it becomes possible achilas kelev. Kiman, who is it like? Obviously, like Reb Nassan. Because Reb Nassan said, if a person can't eat it, it loses its shem oichel, despite the fact that a kelev could eat it. Parabanan. Arevas ha'abdonim, the trough of tanners, the trough that was used for skins. They used to go ahead, in the process of tanning, they would use flour in the process of tanning, and anything that involves kemach, flour, you have the sugya of chametz. Shenasim l'soicha kemach, so a trough, a tanning trough that you put kemach into, toich shloshim yom, if it's within 3 days of Pesach, chayiv levayar, you be chayiv to get rid of it. Koidim shalosh yomim, before 3 days, the smell of the kli will go ahead and make sure that it's not considered roi and einu chayiv levayar. You would not be chayiv. It seems that the idea of I think the word is a slunk. A slunk is a skin. It stinks. So within 3 days, it has a shem kemach. Before 3 days, the smell of the kli, the reach of the kli, will take care of any chametz problem. When do we say within 3 days you have to mavar it? That's only if you didn't use it. If you didn't put a skin in there. If you put skins in there, even within 3 days, you won't be chayiv levar, because the skins will ensure that this kemach loses its shem oichel. Allah is like Reb Nassan, that if within 3 days you use the skins, it's you don't have to mavar it. I feel yom echad, even 1 day. I feel sha'achas, an hour before Pesach. If you have flour in there, if you put in a hide, it's considered the kemach is considered ois kemach, and you don't have to worry. There will no be din of bal yiroya and bal yimatzah. Thank you all for listening. As always, it's appreciated.